Okay, take 4. Acts chapter 10, verse 36 through 43. Gentiles hear the good news. Let me briefly summarize Acts chapter 10. So far, we have the record of how God has convinced Peter that the Gentiles should hear the good news. And then in verse 33, we have Cornelius talking to Peter saying, "So I sent for you at once, and you have been kind enough to come. Now therefore we are all here in the presence of God to hear all you have been commanded by the Lord." Now Peter's going to respond to that request with a brief sermonette, which is going to be told like a news story, beginning in verse 36. "As for the word that he sent to Israel, preaching good news of peace through Jesus Christ, he is Lord of all. You yourselves know what happened throughout all Judea, beginning from Galilee after the baptism that John proclaimed, how God anointed Jesus of Nazareth with the Holy Spirit and with power. He went about doing good and healing all who were oppressed by the devil, for God was with him. And we are witnesses of all that he did, both in the country of the Jews and in Jerusalem. They put him to death by hanging him on a tree." I want to stop right there and just briefly summarize that he has told them facts that they probably have already heard about. Who Jesus was, what Jesus did, where Jesus did it, when Jesus did it, why Jesus did it, and what happened to Jesus. But verse 40 begins with, "But God." So, there's some false news has been floating around about the empty tomb. If you recall, back in Matthew chapter 28, verses 11 through 15, I'll briefly summarize those, but this is the account of the guards at the tomb telling the Sanhedrin and them coming up with a story to tell the guards, to tell everybody that his disciples came in the middle of the night and stole the body. And they paid the soldiers to do that, and they did it, and people believed it. Not everybody, but people believed it. Now, back to our story. Acts chapter 10, verse 40. "But God raised him up on the third day and made him to appear, not to all the people, but to us who had been chosen by God as witnesses, who ate and drank with him after he rose from the dead." So there's the truth right there about what happened with the empty tomb. And now finally, Peter gets to his answer to Cornelius' request about what he was commanded to do. "And he, Jesus, commanded us to preach to the people and to testify that he is the one appointed by God to be the judge of the living and the dead. To him, all the prophets bear witness that everyone who believes in him receives forgiveness of sins through his name." So there you have it. The good news told in just 7 verses. And what did he tell us? He told who Jesus was and who he is now. What Jesus did and what he offers now. Why and how Jesus acted the way he did. How and why he will when he comes again. When Jesus walked on the earth. But he doesn't tell him when he's coming again, because we know the answer to that already. Matthew chapter 25, verse 36. These are Jesus' words himself. "But concerning that day and hour, no one knows, not even the angels of heaven, nor the Son, but the Father only." So, later in life, Peter wrote the epistles. And he gave us some sound advice in 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 15. And I think I've shared this with you before, but I'd like to do so again. "But in your hearts, honor Christ the Lord as holy, always being prepared to make a defense to anyone who asks you for a reason for the hope that is within you, yet do it with gentleness and respect." So, good sound advice, and that's our challenge. So your challenge is this. If you haven't already started on your response, start working on it. Thanks for watching. Well, that was better.